free. Okay, guys, we're just going to wait just a couple seconds just to confirm that we actually are indeed live. Unfortunately, we've had the experience where we thought we were live and turned out we were not. Okay, there we go. It looks like we are up and running. So, hi everyone. My name is Jamie Owen. I'm one of the attorneys here at Student Legal Services. And today I'm joined by Terrence Ruth, one of our other attorneys here to talk about traffic tickets. Just a couple housekeeping matters up front. If you are here today watching because you need to get some credit for something or need me to let anybody know, or you're going to submit it and you may need me to confirm that you were here watching at some point in the future, there is a survey down below. If you want to fill that out, would really appreciate it, just in case so I have the information for the future. And then also, if you're not familiar with Student Legal Services, you do have an attorney here on campus available for you for free. And one of the big areas that we deal with is what we're going to be talking about today, which is traffic tickets. But we also deal with landlord issues, debt issues, credit reporting issues, most criminal issues, which Ms. Ruth also handles, and all sorts of other things. So if you're in a situation and you're not sure where to go or who to turn to, our office is here. And, if it's not us, we'll try to point you in the right direction. So again, my name is Jamie. I'm one of the civil attorneys here. So even though traffic tickets technically can be civil, I do not typically handle them. So I'm going to be relying on Terry's expertise today to kind of talk about what to do. So Terry, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Terry Ruth. I'm one of the lawyers here, as Jamie said. I've been practicing about 20 years. I started as a prosecutor in Seminole County for a couple of years, doing a lot of traffic ticket defense in court. So I'm very familiar with it. I think just about everyone in their life at some point is going to be pulled over by a police officer. And we're kind of doing this to help you make that go as painlessly as possible. So if you find yourself getting pulled over, the lights behind you, whatever, you're going to want to indicate to the officer that you have seen it, you recognize it, and that you plan on complying by finding a safe place to pull over. If you have issues such as it's an undercover car, and I don't know if it's an actual police car, you can always call 911 and they will confirm it by reaching out to the officer just to make sure. If it's nighttime, you want to pull over in a well-lit area for everyone's own protection. And basically, you just want to indicate to the officer you are complying and moving over in a safe, orderly fashion as far over on the side of the road as possible, if that's where you end up doing that.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that I think when someone sees the lights behind them, everybody kind of like, oh no. There are some things that you can do. You could do everything right and still end up with a bad encounter with a police officer. But there are some things you can do. So as you're saying, pull over if it's nighttime, make sure you're in a well-lit area. Would it be a good idea to turn on the overhead light?
Well, once you're stopped, yes. And kind of the reason for that is so the officer can see what's going on inside the car. You don't want to be rooting around trying to find your registration or insurance at that point. The safest thing is to have that light on and your hands on the wheel so that the officer can see your hands, and specifically that you're not either trying to hide something or trying to grab something. Because from the officer's perspective, which is helpful to look at, they don't know what's going on in the car. They don't know who they pulled over other than the registration of the car or the situation that's going on there. It's actually one of the more dangerous scenes for a police officer because of the unknown factor. So if you recognize that and you understand that, putting the officer's mind at ease can kind of diffuse maybe a tense situation for everyone immediately. Once the officer comes up, depending on the officer, it can be abrupt. It can be questions back and forth. Where are you going? What's going on? Or it can be, license, registration, insurance. Hand those to them. It's always a good idea to have those in your car. The insurance and registration, where you know where they are and you're not fumbling around for them. You want to be as courteous and polite as possible, despite the officer's demeanor. And that does not mean given to every request from the officer or let the officer badger you or whatever. Just polite and yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Very quick, easy. The officer would generally take your license, registration, or just your license back to their car. They will look to see if there's any warrants for you, look at your history, call on the plates, things along those lines. They'll then come back. They may have a ticket for you. They may not. They may ask you, how fast you were going, or, is there some reason you're doing X amount of speed in a, 50 miles an hour in a 20-mile-an-hour zone. You don't have to answer that. You can keep it very vague. I'm sorry, Your Honor, or sorry, sir, or no, I did not. Generally, at the side of the road is not the time to argue with the officer. Usually, that only gets you in more trouble, either in the form of more tickets. Sometimes the officer will see several violations and won't write you for several violations, just write you for one, or they will give you a break on the speed. They pulled you over for going 25 miles over the speed limit, but based on the interaction, they just did what's called a write down. They only wrote you for a lower amount of speed, which can save you a lot of money. And while your politeness and respect may not necessarily help you, it won't hurt you. So it's an important thing to remember, financially speaking, that to do that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think we've heard from several officers when we've done presentations with them that it's a lot easier to talk yourself into tickets than it is to talk yourself out of tickets. And so if you're impolite or showing your frustration, which you may have indeed a valid reason for being frustrated, that moment is not the time to do that. That's you come in to talk to us and you kind of go from there. And I guess that's a good segue into if a person does get a ticket from an encounter with law enforcement, a traffic ticket, what are their options and what should they be considering?
Well, the first advice is to come see us or another lawyer. You might as well come see us because we're a free service for you guys.
Free.
And at least have us look at it. And if we're not able to help you, as if it's out of our counties that we represent students in, we can kind of still walk you through the options. But generally, the options are if you get a ticket and it's a moving violation, you have three options. One of them is to just pay the ticket. But if you do that, you get points on your license, which then can cause bad things such as insurance problems. If you get too many, your license can get suspended. I think, Jamie, we did another talk about insurance and things like that earlier this year.
We did, and I'll briefly interject to say that usually just a traffic ticket unless it's in excess of 15 miles over the speed limit. So this is a good time for your, hopefully to get a write down if you were going a little bit faster, can help you out with insurance. Or if it's your second ticket within 18 months, then your insurance rates could go up. It also could go up if this ticket is part of an auto accident and there are claims made. But we did a presentation in February of this year on the 24th. That's available on our YouTube channel here that you can watch that goes into auto insurance extensively. So I'll kind of leave it at that. As far as the impacts that tickets have, it really will be a fact specific situation.
So you have option to just pay it and get points. You have the option to do driving school, which you can do once a year and up to 5 times in your life. You just notify the clerk you're elected driving school, which can be a 4-hour online class, usually costs $20 to $30. And it's really the only guaranteed way to not get points for a moving violation. The third option is you essentially plead not guilty and request a court hearing. The court will then schedule a hearing, notify you when it is, subpoena the officer and any witnesses with the case. And with those hearings, kind of all bets are off. And what that means is it can get better if the officer doesn't show up, or if you have a hearing and the judge or hearing officer makes a determination that you're not guilty, that there's insufficient evidence, then the ticket's dismissed. It can stay the same as in a lot of cases. And before an actual adversarial hearing in the form of a plea deal, so to speak, where the officer agrees to no points and you just end up paying the ticket. And some counties will also have the addition of court costs. Sometimes then the officer at court will agree to reduce it or maybe dismiss one of the tickets. So there are potential deals to be made. And one of the things that we kind of circle back to is, a lot of times the judge or hearing officer will ask the officer, were there any problems at the scene? What was the attitude? And if there's an argument, first of all, there's usually no deals in your favor. And additionally, the officer then telling the judge or hearing officer that there was an argument or that the officer thought you were rude, disrespectful, that usually leads to further bad sanctions. Mm-hmm. So those are, in addition to that, if you go to court and lose, in theory, your ticket price can go up to $500. You can get points. In some situations, you can potentially lose your license. So that's why it's important to talk to a lawyer if you're considering those options. And just to also run through and kind of bounce off ideas with us, even if you think you know what you want to do. It's never a bad idea.
And on average, how much do those court costs usually run if you end up having to pay them?
Like Orange County is only $33, but that's in addition to the ticket price. Mm-hmm.
So. And how long do you have to make a determination of what you want to do after you get a ticket?
Good question. So from the ticket, you have 30 days to decide. Now, after that 30 days, your ticket, you're deemed a default and you have to pay the ticket. What they'll do for some period of time is they'll allow you to pay late fees to open that case back up. Mm-hmm. But it's really not a good idea to wait. The more you wait, the more likely you're to forget it. You forget it, too much time passes, then your ticket goes into default, and then your license gets suspended. And then you get pulled over for driving on a suspended license. And, if you drive on a suspended license without having knowledge, it's just a civil infraction, such as speeding or failure to maintain a single lane. But if the officer thinks that you have knowledge, and that can be kind of a confusing topic for some officers, it's a criminal citation, in which it's an arrestable also. So you do not want to take that chance, and you do not want to be out driving and the officer to just pull your tag over and see that you have a license or that your license is suspended, which gives them automatic cause to pull you over, which is not something you want.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that traffic tickets here in Florida are expensive on average?
Yeah, I guess it's all relative, but yeah, the smallest ticket for the lowest amount of speeding, which is from 5 miles an hour over the speed limit to 9 miles over, is about $130, depending, and it varies a little depending on what county.
Mm-hmm.
And that can go up to around $500. I've seen tickets for $1,000. Um, those are usually like a motorcycle
Ouch.
that has their tag going up straight up and down instead of side to
Mm-hmm.
side.
Mm-hmm.
So they can get up there.
And are there any options for, we're in COVID now, a lot of people have gone through some hard financial times. What are some options if you're potentially going to have a problem paying the fine?
Yeah, a lot of counties will do some sort of payment plan with you, um, you know, and that's an option. I've had students that just don't have the money or aren't going to have it for a while. We just go to court with that understanding and we work out a deal and it buys them, 4 or 5 months to save up money. So it's not a great reason to go to court, but it is a realistic one
Yeah, because
sometimes.
I guess it's probably them balancing court fees versus the fees I know that the clerks pay for pay or charge for payment plans on top
Right,
of that. So
right. So we have a payment plan that you can tack on like $5 a month.
yes, and
Right.
I think there's an initial fee, but I don't know it off the top of my head if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Uh, so uh, we're going to be here taking questions as well. So if anybody has any questions, you can type it in the chat and we'll try to get to some of those if anybody has them. But this is going to be a little bit of a shorter presentation. We're just trying to get some little bit of ideas. If you've joined us for some of our previous presentations, sometimes they run closer to an hour. We're going to keep it a little bit shorter than that. So make sure if you have your questions, you get them in so we get a chance to answer them.
A lot of a good point with all this is awareness of our services,
Mhm.
and especially with the questions. I think a lot of people have very fact specific questions, which usually
Yes.
relate to something going on with them, which a lot of times people don't want to share out on an open forum
Mhm.
like this. And so I don't know. Our number is on the screen there. You can always call
Yeah.
407-823-2538 and just schedule an appointment,
Mhm.
and we'll go
Yeah.
over your ticket and kind of go over any defenses and your
Mhm.
options.
Yes, all of our contact information is also in the description box below. So you can definitely contact us there, stop by our office in Student Union 304 if you're on main campus. We service all the campuses as long as you're enrolled in classes. We're provided by a student government for you guys. One thing I will say though, in regards to traffic tickets, is that Terry does go to court quite a bit. And don't wait to the end of your 30 days to come in and talk to him because it can get tight and then you might have to make some decisions really really quickly. So the better thing to do is to try to make an appointment on the next business day after you've gotten the ticket, so you can make sure that to get you in, um, to
Right.
see one of us.
There's some tickets even that you may want to correct. Um, broken tail light, or you weren't carrying your license, or you didn't have your insurance card quick enough. You got a ticket for it, $100 some ticket that you can fix. But there's steps you need to take. You need to take it, proof of it to the clerk's office and pay the $10 dismissal fee.
Mhm.
So if you wait to the end, you may not have time to do that.
Mhm.
And you lose a valuable option. And you don't want that.
Yeah, and getting to the clerk's office is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. We know that depending on what county you're in, if you're here in Orange, sometimes going to downtown Orlando from main campus is not the easiest thing.
Yeah.
So give yourself plenty of time to kind of get that taken care of. But I just kind of wanted to maybe then talk to you, Terry, about what you see most often here on campus. Like, what's the biggest misconceptions that students have?
We see a lot of, I mean, I think probably the most popular ticket is obviously the speeding ticket.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of officers on campus, and there's not that many roadways. So if you are speeding, there's a good chance you're going to get pulled over and written a ticket, usually full price. I see a lot of um, California rolls, I think. Is that what they're called?
Like
Um,
California stops.
yeah, where you pull up to the stop sign and you're allowed to turn right on red, but you just kind of roll through the stop sign.
Mhm.
Slow, but it never full stop. And you need to come to a complete stop, even if there's a sign anywhere that says, uh, you know, you're allowed to turn right on red. You still
Mhm.
have to comply with that red and come to a complete stop.
Mhm.
So I see that a lot. Um,
Is
we
that
used
what
to,
you get with the red light cameras too,
yeah, we
mostly?
used to get those a lot too.
Hmm.
I think the red light cameras have kind of gone out of favor in a lot of different cities, so which is good.
Hmm.
But yeah, always come to a complete stop. Um, it's especially on these intersections where no one comes to a complete stop because someone's going to be complaining, and the officers will go out there with
Hmm.
and they'll just write as many tickets as possible to show
Hmm.
that they're superior. They took care of the problem that was
Yeah.
called
There's at least one intersection that I'm aware of on campus that if the officers wanted to here, they could set up and maybe one out of every 15 cars actually comes to a full and complete stop to make the right on red. Um, so, it's something to be very careful of. As my driver's ed instructor said many, many years ago, it's that gentle rock back is kind of the when you've come to a full and complete stop. There might be times where you think you've stopped, but if the officer still doesn't really detect a full stop, it can still be considered a rolling stop. So um, I always try to keep that in mind myself as I'm driving to make sure we're making those stops.
You never want to give the police officer a reason to be able to pull you over.
What's the worst advice that you see people give about tickets or stops?
I don't know about advice. I think the worst thing that people think is they can argue their way out of a ticket. Um, Start talking about how they know their rights and don't you have better things to do? Why are you bothering me? I mean, these are confrontational things that will cause problems. You
Mhm.
know, for the most part, like we said earlier, the side of the road is not the place, and you're almost never able to talk the officer out of a ticket. Unless it's, why are you going so fast? Well, I have a medical emergency. And sure enough, you do. Well, then that's fine. But for the most part, in the large majority of cases, you're not going to be able to talk yourself out of the ticket by arguing. It's just not going to happen. Save that for court. You don't have to tell the officer that because then it's a bit confrontational, like see you in court, officer. That's not, no one wants
No.
that. Um, but yeah, generally that's just not the time. That's the time to be polite. That does not mean give in to officer demands like, hey, do you mind if I search your car? You don't have to do that. Generally, it's a bad idea to let the officer search your car because they search your car, they're going to, not tear it up, but make a mess. And then it's your problem to clean it all up. And for
Hmm.
what? Nothing. So
And if
generally,
Yeah, if
the
you've
answer
had that
is no.
friend, we all have that friend that might have been in your car, and who knows what that friend might have left behind.
Right. It's your
You just,
car. You're the only one in there. It's going to be on you. So you don't want that. for a variety of reasons.
Mhm. Well, we know here on campus they have a number of police dogs. How long can they make you wait for those?
Generally, about 20 minutes is the average typical time for the officer to stop and write a citation for it to be complete.
Mhm.
Um, so, you can always ask the officer, especially if once you've gotten the ticket back or your license registration back, am I free to leave? That's a great question to learn and to have with any police encounter. Am I free to leave? Because what you may think you're being detained, um, the officer may have a different viewpoint of that. And am I free to go? That question and answer, courts will look at to make that determination. Because if you are being detained, the officer needs a certain amount of probable cause or reasonable suspicion to criminal activity. So, am I free to go? Am I free to leave? Is a great question to always ask an officer if you're not sure.
Well, I don't see any questions. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share, Terry?
No, just slow down.
Yeah, I've heard a number of officers complain about students going 30 plus over here on campus.
Yeah, they just posted something the other day on their Twitter feed or
Mhm,
something, social media about that.
mhm. Yeah, and that's the thing to know. If I see something, I handle our social media, so sometimes I will see, hey, we're going to be doing a DUI, roadblock this weekend. We share that. So, being on our social media and our Twitter or Facebook, you can see that and know that. I mean, it's just better not to put yourself in that situation anyhow. But in addition to DUIs, they'll be out there. So if you're speeding or doing something else that catches law enforcement attention, you might end up having a traffic stop. Um, so, keep that in mind and we'll see where they post that they caught someone doing some ridiculously fast speed on campus. It's a lot slower than you think it is. Um, give yourself extra time, especially it's supposed to be a rainy week this week. So that's a prime time for Terry to see people from tickets due to accidents, and for me or one of the other civil attorneys to start seeing people with questions about auto insurance. So slow down, please be careful. A lot of accidents happen here on campus. And if people just were a little bit slower, probably a lot of those would be avoided. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap things up. Again, link down below for the survey if you need credit for being here for any reason, um, or if you're going to submit something to somebody and you might need verification. I have no idea who watched this if I don't have that. A month from today, on the 20th of October, we'll be back here at 2 p.m. talking about debt and collections. So if you have any questions about a bill that you've received that may not be yours, or it is yours and you're just not sure what to do about it. We understand a lot of people are having some tough times as a result of COVID, and that's continuing to occur. So, we're definitely here for you guys for that. And we're here. We'll be back here doing that. And on that note, I hope you guys have a great day. Remember, we offer free legal services for our students on a variety of topics. As long as you're enrolled in classes, we don't do everything, but we do a lot of things. So definitely make sure to contact us before, if you have questions or if you're in a situation, if you get a traffic ticket, you're not sure what to do, you might get lots of solicitations, but you know that you have our office here that's free that can kind of walk you through what you can do. And we hope that everyone has a great day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay.